powder.
Yeah. All right, we're live. Cathi, Ryan, I'm so excited to have you guys on our ZenOne podcast where we talk about new stuff, what's exciting in the industry. And to be honest, this whole intraoral camera thing is a hot subject. And if you guys can help me connect it to that, like the labs and how it helps the labs and print all that stuff. So like it's a fascinating subject for us. And again, I wanted to bring you as experts and talk about what's going on in that space and more importantly, why you two are not only working together but pushing this thing forward. And so just to talk a little bit about that, and we can start with introductions, what your positions are, and things like that.
Well, my name is, Cathi Coles. I am a registered dental hygienist. I'm a dental assistant. I've managed offices before. I've used multiple scanners in the past and have found Ryan and his company to have a piece of technology that helps us in the dental office get things to the patient faster, get it to the lab faster, and do it in a way that is easy to use, easy to learn. It's got its learning curve on it a little bit, teaching the dental assistants and doctors how to go forward with new technology. So it's something that once I was introduced to it and used it myself, I fell in love with it. It was something that's got a smaller tip. It's something that can be used in multiple rooms. And it's just a product that I wouldn't back if I didn't believe in it. And that's coming from the dental office side, saving, the time, the shipping, things like that definitely help in an immense way. On top of buying supplies and things like that, this offers multiple advantages above some other scanners.
That's amazing.
Yes.
Director of Sales for the U.S. Offices in here for 3Disc. We are a global company, so we've got ties to 4 different continents, and we're selling in about 25 different countries. We've got some great synergies in the U.S. with some big labs, with some big organizations, and we want to bring the product here and show you guys and show you the user friendliness and kind of what separates 3Disc compared to some of the other leading competitors in the industry.
Do you guys mind if we start with like basics? Why do we need an intraoral scanner? Why?
There's many reasons for that, right? So I'd say, the top 3 main reasons are going to be quality being one, the quality that the lab can fabricate from an STL file compared to a physical impression is, the remake percentage goes from, most labs try to be around, 5 to 7% remake, and this pushes that number to the 1 to 2%, right? So if there's offices that struggle with impressions, or maybe their assistants didn't have that individualized training that they should have in these big classroom settings, they're going to struggle. And this kind of, like Cathi mentioned in her intro, there is a bit of a learning curve, but that learning curve only gets better, right? And with certain 100%. Patients, you can't take an impression, right? You have to do the intraoral scanner route. Second turnaround time. The labs, they'll receive the file within 10 to 15 seconds after sending it. Everything's cloud-based, right? It's all digital. So that compared to shipping your case from California to a lab in New York, you're looking at 2 to 3 days each way. And that's if UPS or FedEx or their shipping company is on point and there's no delays or weather delays, right? So this is immediate. And then the third most important is chair time, right? That patients experience. A denture case that has 4 steps, it's turned into 1 or maybe 2 steps. You go right, instead of a custom tray, a bite block, a setup, and then a try-in and finish, you go straight to a try-in and finish. And then you go into your clear aligners, right? These aligner companies, coming from the lab space myself, I'd say 65, 70% of impressions that are sent for aligners are sent back and asked for a re-impression with, more data. So that's just a few, right? There's so many more opportunities when it comes to, you get into your in-depth all on 4, all on 6 cases. they really need to be digital at this day and age.
Yeah.
It's just too much back and forth.
So this
Cathi,
allows the
what's your
patient.
take?
This
Yeah.
allows the patient not to come back into the office if something goes wrong, because the laboratory has time to actually reprint it again or use the same 3D model. In the office, that's what I would do, is come in and teach everybody how to actually use this the proper way to make their lives easier. It does take about 5 to 10 minutes to actually get the scan and get it in place. But the things it cuts out, of course, are calling the lab for a pickup, printing out the lab script, calling UPS for a pickup. All these things that it takes out of the dental assistant and doctor's hands is adding so much time to what they don't have to do, and to be able to not have that patient come back in every time actually helps with patient relations. You don't have to call them back in. You don't have to waste your time for a new impression. Take that temporary off, take the model again. So all these things that coordinate into what actually helps in the dental office is my portion of it. And teaching and learning how to use the new equipment is definitely, like Ryan and I were saying, a learning curve, but it's just like we learned at school. You have to do things multiple times before you come the best, the prolific at it, that you can actually get in there and do this quickly, do this with ease. Even asking patients, they are more comfortable with the scanner than they are having this impression in their mouth for 5 or 10 minutes. So it's technology side. They're able to visualize it. You're able to show them on the screen. And to have one of my actually favorite is the color mapping. It's something that shows that this scan that you've got is absolutely perfect to go to the lab. You're not missing anything. You don't have to go in and double check with the doctor that this impression's okay. Do we need to take it again? Because it gives you that fail safe that everything is okay and everything's going to work out perfect on your case with this color mapping technology that's out.
That's pretty cool.
It's very cool.
Yeah, that's so cool. If you try to be objective, is it easier to learn or teach a dental assistant to do the impressions or the scan?
Okay, so I taught dental assisting for about 10 years. So being one myself, yes, it's definitely something that any assistant can learn. It's learning to read the x-rays in a different way. It's learning to look at the screen in a different way. It's all these things together to watch them start something new and fresh and to master it. That's the benefit of the teaching side. When you go in to teach the scanner itself, it's new, it's different. It's something that, of course, we are getting used to with the technology that's coming out, even in the Zen supply category with you. Things are changing. And everything that's out there with the learning curve, it does take some practice. It does mean that you need to get in there and practice on yourself, practice on patients, start with smaller cases. But by the time you've used it 20, 40 times, it becomes the easiest technology to use. It really does.
Yeah.
And let me ask it in a different way, Ryan. So I really want to get this number out of Cathi. So if I call you and I say, Cathi, I want to be a dental assistant, right? And if you teach me to do impressions and if you teach me to do scan, how long would it take me to learn how to do impressions the correct way? And
the correct way to get him to where you're perfect at it, I would say.
And I don't get yelled by the doctor.
So a good dental assistant takes about a year to get to where she can do anything and feel confident and feel good at what she's doing, or he, excuse me. All of them, as they go through, do have probably 4 to 6 months learning in the office once they get out of school, to where they go, okay, I've got this. I know what I'm looking for. So with the scanner itself, you've got to give yourself a couple months too. It's definitely one of those things that you start from scratch, you're brand new, or if you've used scanners in the past. So I'd say a good 4 months before you turn around, just like learning to take an impression with the doctor, is about the same learning curve with the scanner.
Okay, that's pretty cool.
So we pulled some data last summer on this exact question, right? Because we were starting to move into schools. And you're kind of looking at that 100 to 150 physical impressions before the data is a pass, right? 10 out of 10 passing, right? And with scanning, I'd say about 20 scans, right? Because you're doing an upper and a lower arch on each. So you're getting double practice on each patient, right? Because when you do your impression, it's your impression. But with the scanning, there's a little more into it, upper, lower, bite, and then the processing and the tools. So I'd say about 20 scans. In most offices, after the second or third scan, you see the light bulb go off in their head, and they can at least get through the scanning. It might take them 10 to 12 minutes, and they're not down to that 7 to 8 minute where they will be after, like Cathi mentioned, that month, 2 months. But I do believe the learning curve is shortened with the newer generation. They're into technology. They know how to utilize things. So these assistants coming out of schools, they know how to scan better than taking impressions.
The doctors themselves are using scanners in the schools. So when they come out, they have a little knowledge of this, but making sure they pick the right one, pick the one that's cost effective for them, making sure that everything they have on it is something that they're going to use is definitely a benefit with the newer generation coming out. You get into my age and it's definitely something that you have to learn again. But that's where everything's going. It's like changing a new computer system, changing anything in the office. It makes it new. It makes it exciting. And of course, with any changes coming through with the dental field, this technology is just amazing what it can do nowadays. It's just blown my mind starting in the, late 80s, 90s in my career to watch where we've come, to watch what we've done. It's just mind blowing sometimes to see what they can do. And Ryan's, been doing this much longer than I have. And when he and I talked about this product, it was something that 100% I can stand behind and something that I know we can teach anybody to use.
Cool. So I think from correct me if I'm wrong, if I understand this correctly, if a dental assistant is taking an impression, you got to practice on a live patient.
You do.
Because I think the difficulty is me moving my head around and my tongue sticking everywhere, right? So like for the impressions. But I feel like for the scanner, there's less need for like practicing on an actual patient because like with the scanner, at least from the outside, it feels to me that you can learn how to use scanner even on a model.
Yes.
You can.
100%. And we do have a lot of e-learnings and learnings, online learnings that are based on you can scan with a live patient if you have a partner, right? If you have somebody that's there acting as a patient or two assistants. Sometimes we do virtual trainings, one scanning one, the other scanning the other.
Yes.
But we have had success with people who are just, practicing on a typodont model and they go through the process and they can prep teeth on the typodonts and work with the margin marking and, absolutely.
Yeah. Interesting. And from a patient experience, I remember doing a model one. That whole material, that infragram in my mouth.
Awful. It's awful. And
you
that's
got that little drool coming down. You've got the bib underneath holding it up. Yeah, that can be slightly comical. We always kind of play with that a little bit with patients too, and they know themselves. And of course, you have those ones that gag. So it's hard to hold an impression when somebody's fighting for their life with a gag reflex. So this definitely takes that side of it out.
Did anybody swallow the impression material in your professional career time?
Yes. And that's some of that learning curve as you go through, back in the days where you put too much impression material comes in, you get that nice impression of the tongue and the back of the throat. And yes, I have had people swallow before. And it's not fun explaining to them how the process is going to be, but it's going to be a little harder to swallow the camera.
Pretty clear. Give it a couple of days, and we can predict the outcome of that swallowed impression material. That's cool.
Does not taste the best.
Yeah. And then
for sure.
I'm trying to get the cost from my team. Like I forgot how much is Intraoral. Intraoral is used for the impression materials, right?
There's so many brands out there right now, but even with the cost of supplies going up, we're all facing that in the dental field right now. trying to control the budget a little bit, trying to control things that sometimes are out of our control. I know we've had some big price increases with COVID hitting and things like that. So we've really had to find new ways to control budget and things like that. So definitely going to this scanner. You don't have to buy covers for the tips. The tips that come with it are autoclavable. They do last between 200 and 400 if the lens is taken care of the correct way. So that's an added expense that you don't have to incur. So that to me is a nice benefit of the actual unit itself. It does.
Yeah, so depending on what they buy, right? Impression material and how they buy it, whether it's a large group that's ordering in bulk and they're down to $10 to $12 per patient for impression material, or these smaller offices that are spending upwards of $20, $25 per patient, this saves money instantly. It's a big cost to look at, but when you break it down per patient, per week, per month, you are instantly saving money by switching and going digital.
Ryan, what is the big cost? Like, you're talking to dentists who are spending $100,000 X-ray machine, like in a 3D scanner, like the big, I forgot, CBCT.
Sometimes they're 150. Yep.
Right. So let's get it out of the way. How much is this thing?
So you're looking at a retail price of $16,995, and that comes with the laptop with the training. We're obviously going to offer Zen a little bit better of a price to these customers.
A little bit?
Yeah, a little bit. So we're going to be somewhere around that $14,000 mark, and that's including everything.
Okay.
In-person training. Yeah, for sure. We're going to take care of you and your
that includes Cathi.
Yeah.
That's like $4,000 on its own.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, since we got the cost out of the way, so this is my least amount of worries, but from an organizational standpoint, you don't need to have that thing that disposes the white thing that stands on a countertop. I forgot what it's called, Cathi. Like that, you hook it up, and what does it do?
The impression material, we call them guns or dispensing tools as they go through.
Yeah.
So this clears your counter space off. Yep, you don't have to buy tips for your light body impression. You're not mixing your heavy body. You're not mistakenly over mixing it. It's already set before you get it in there. So all of these things that go with the dental office are things that I have done firsthand and still sometimes do. Nothing like being in the office, but when you get behind some of this technology and see what it can do between the 3D scanners like you were talking about now that we use and can pinpoint things, this scanner can go in and see things that sometimes the naked eye can't. We can't tell if there's that small void, but it'll tell you if there's a small void.
So basically, that's a good tagline, Ryan, for you guys. No guns in the dental office.
There you go.
Right? So people will get it. But okay, so none of this stuff. You don't have to buy an impression material. What happens? You said it's 400 times you can sterilize the tip of the scanner. What happens if the mirror cracks?
So I'll kind of demonstrate so you can see a visual. Right, there we go. So there's a small mirror, and right. So
I feel left out. I don't have one. You two have.
We'll send you one.
I have a ruler.
So the tips, you can see there's a mirror, right? So this mirror is the eyes of the scanner, right? The scanners, everything is held inside the base, very lightweight, the most ergonomic in the industry. So you can see the tip size is just a little bit wider than my index finger. Now, if you look at some of the other competitors in the market, some of them are double the size, right? Which making it very hard for younger patients, pedo patients, or people that just may have a little bit larger of an arch. But they are fully autoclavable. I have offices that have been using the same 3 tips. You do get 3 tips with the package. So you're looking at, roughly 1,000 to 1,200 impressions right off the bat. I have some offices that are over 500 autoclaves a piece. As long as you listen to the training, you pay attention to the sanitation process, and you take a little bit of care of them, they're going to last a long time.
That's the nice part. There's no extra. We also have great support. So you can always, of course, call us if you need anything, but we have a team behind us that's just wonderful. By the time they're done, They answer the phone. They can team view with you. All these things that go with it are just phenomenal for the price and the quality that you get for this
Yeah.
unit going through.
So back to the sensors, just very quick. I want to stay a little bit more technical and
Got it.
in the weeds of things. So 400 times you can sterilize, but what happens if I crack the mirror like at 200? Can I just replace the mirror, or should I buy the new thing?
So there are no mirror replacements. They come, built as one, right? So if that be the case, so if we have this happen every now and then, right? And it's maybe one assistant wasn't in the office during training. She grabs the tip. She's a little worried. Maybe she puts some gauze around the mirror, puts it in the autoclave. Then the gauze sticks because of the hot temperature, and it leaves some abrasion or some gunk buildup on the mirror. So at that point, if they were to call in and send us some pictures, we would warranty those tips at least one time for them and say, hey, you know what? We'll use this as a learning lesson. That we'll put this into as a warranty ticket, and we'll send out a new pack of tips. Once they do have them and they're using them for 6 months, 8 months, and it's gone through its lifetime of 200, 300, 400 scans each tip, then you can purchase packs of 3 at a very reasonable price. It comes out to about 7 to 10 cents a tip, depending how many you buy, whether it be 1 pack, 2 packs. As you buy more, the price does drop. So most offices buy 2, 3 packs at a time, and that comes out to roughly like $500. So you're looking at about $100 a tip.
When you say 7 cents a tip, like what do you mean?
So if you take that average of 400 scans times by 3 tips, 1,200 divided by the price of the pack, you're paying roughly.
How much is the pack?
So you're looking at about $350. So if you divide, $350 by 1,200, that you're roughly at that. I think it's like 8.5 cents a tip, right? So depending on how much use they get out of it, some offices take better care than others.
Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, if you said, what is it, even at the DSO level, $10 per patient and impression material, was that the price that you said?
Yep.
They can go to 25 depending on impression material they use.
Yeah.
So you're
That's
going,
pretty
if
cool.
you compare it to something in our market, let's say iTero, wonderful scanner, great company, but their tips are $100 for 25, right? So you're looking at or is it 20, Cathi? I believe it's 20. So you're looking at $5 a patient compared to 9-10 cents, right? Those costs they're accruing, they don't realize it until they see it, and they realize, oh my goodness, we're seeing 20 patients every day, right? We're going through a box a day. So these larger offices.
So if we look at the private offices, right, and I'm curious, what pushback do you see from private offices when you present? Like, if you get any pushback? I mean, I'm sure people like give you some kind of.
What I hear is why do I fix something that's not broken? And my biggest answer to that is, truthfully, and this is no disrespect when I say this, if someone isn't doing digital dentistry yet, they're behind the 8 ball already. Because of the way the lab is all digital workflow now, because of shipping costs, because of quality. And most important in my eyes is doctors should and always put the patient first and that patient experience. I can't tell you how many times we go in for a training in the afternoon after the morning training, we stay and we coach live patients. And the patient's look, the first look of that first patient, when they look at their mouth being made on that laptop next to them, it's crazy. And the expressions and the exchange of words between doctor, hygienist, assistant, and patient, it goes through the roof, right? And you see the doctor kind of perk up, and he's proud of it, and he's excited, and he's happy because the patients are in shock and awe. I mean, truthfully, it is the wow factor for an office to have an intraoral scanner.
They can see the value. They can see why they needed the work that the doctor just did. And even going in and through, and the tech side of it also, I want to add in, it's one of my favorite things that are going to start too, is shade matching is going to be happening. So we'll be able to go in with the scanner and a couple updates, I'm assuming the 6-month period, maybe, Ryan, to actually help pick the shades. So we're not having so many shades come back, so the computer's AI is going to actually help with that.
Yeah, and then
Can I push back?
Cavity detection.
I'd like to push back on what's best for the customer. I feel like it's very subjective. because it sits in a doctor's mind what's best for the customer, because a doctor will say, it's my customer, it's my patient. I know what's best for the customer. How would you deal with that? You can't go and tell the doctor, like, well, we know better, right?
No.
You can't, but just showing him that data and the analysis behind it and the reasons behind it and what that patient's going through, right? And I use the example of the pedo offices, right? First and foremost, because the children's psyche is not developed yet, right? And forming that initial fear at the age of 3 or 4 years old of the dental office can change the projection of that child's life. I know it sounds silly and far-fetched, but it's not, right? Being sick in the dental chair, gagging, having to throw up, and then going through that embarrassment and all that at a young age, it really does change the game. And we have the first prefabricated zirconia crown software called AlphaBite, and it is solely on our intraoral scanning software, and it will be. So we are the first of its kind because of the ergonomics, because of our software being able to integrate with other companies' software, the willingness to do that back end work. But showing them the data behind it and what all that patient gets out of it, a quicker chair visit, no impression material, but also this eliminates them having to come back in if the lab makes a mistake. So bringing someone in for a 30-minute chair time in a week and a half later out of the blue changes, and Cathi can vouch for this, the rest of that day is backed up, right? Lunch is shortened. Breaks are non-existent now. So it really does change.
But imagine the call you have to make to the patient. I think these are the big things. Like, this is objective.
That's all you have to
right?
make.
So, like,
what breaks the
quality
offices
quality in my mind, like the patient care and all that, like every doctor will say, we provide the best patient care. There's no ruler that I can put to it and say, well, you scaled in the 20 and you scaled in the 30 and the patient, there's none of that, right? But it's like, very objectively.
They do.
Right, but very objectively, how many times you had to call the patient to bring them back for the new impression? Yeah.
It happens.
Now they can use that impression. Yep.
Right, and how would 10 times. Yeah, and how did that call go? Like, when the patient needs to come back, do you say, like, sorry, we effed up and we have to do it again? Like, or the lab lost it?
They blame the lab. They blame the lab.
Yeah.
Hey, secrets, come on.
Well, it's better than blaming the dental assistant. I'll take that. Just don't blame on my dental assistants, okay? Like, that's fine.
Yeah, but sometimes you have these more rural areas, right, where people are commuting 45 minutes, an hour. I have some people that are coming for ortho visits from college, right? They're college students, so they only get to go on their breaks or on summer or winter breaks. So that impression that failed at the lab, that kid's back in school. Now his ortho treatment's delayed by 3 months, and he's wearing the same aligner number. Then it breaks or the fitting gets loose because you're only supposed to wear it for 2 to 3 weeks. So many different things can happen and force a bigger issue when it could have been eliminated with such an easy fix.
But what if the doc says, well, I'll do the scanner, but what if the file is lost somewhere? What am I going to do?
Well, it's cloud-based, right? It's cloud-based. It's on his PC that we provide. So
there's there.
Yeah, it's always there. Once it's sent to the lab, it's always stored on the computer unless somebody goes in and deletes them, which some do. I think you can store up to 5,000 full-size STL files, which mean that the file was maxed out. Hardly do you max out a file once you get your scanning pathway, trained correctly and you work on it and your speed, it gets faster. But no, those scans, once they're sent to a lab, we have heroncloud.com is what it's called. It's our cloud-based portal. And these doctors can view their portal at any time during the day from their mobile device, their home laptop, their cell phones to see maybe they're out of town.
Hope they don't do it on the cell phone.
But they can. They can view to see what their office submitted to the lab either that day, that week, that month, or that year.
So if I get the laptop, should I call my IT support and just have them hooked it up to the backup, like how all of my other computers in the office would be backed up?
You can, right? And in our IT team, we'll work with those IT teams and help them kind of guide them on the way to do it. But it's not necessary since everything is stored cloud-based. Our software, though, now that you mentioned that, is integratable with their patient softwares. So like Dentrix, things like that, we will provide the APIs to their tech team to help them integrate so they can put all their digital, I guess it would be their charts, their digital charts, so they can all be kind of in one space together.
Yeah, my only comment there would be, again, I'm unbiased, right? So like I'm just trying to see from a doctor's standpoint, like I would assume your cloud is free.
Yep.
It is.
Right? So like then all the files go to the cloud. Hypothetically, I can say, all right, that's great. I can delete all my stuff locally. But what if you, I don't know, like in 5 years, say, you know what, all of a sudden our cloud is going to be $10.99 a month and then $199 a month, right? Like it could happen. We don't know. And so that's where, doctors could back up their local computers and make sure all of their scanners or scans go somewhere where everything else go backed up, right? So like it's not anything negative to say, but it's just like it's going to be helpful.
Sure. It's definitely a topic to bring up, and I appreciate you bringing that up because that is a question that we get sometimes. And I can tell you from an IT standpoint, our software team has the cloud is backed up, right? So every 24 hours, that cloud is backed up. God forbid we had a failure or the server went out or something. Those files will always be there. Something else that's super helpful. I tell my docs, once a quarter, once a year, have your team go through the computer. Because truthfully, after an ortho patient, after 30 days, you want to rescan because of movement, right? That scan's going to be different. With a restoration patient, anything more, I say 2 months, sometimes docs stretch it to 3, you want to rescan anyways. So those older scans can be kept to reference and you can kind of superimpose them on our software and show, hey, this was March, this was September. Look at what happened to that tooth that was decaying. Look how much worse it got. Look at this cavity. Now it's almost at the point of a root canal, right? It's so much worse. So they can compare and contrast, but truthfully, after a few months, you can really get rid of those scans because there's really no need for them other than comparing for the patient. Something that the mouth has gone through a transformation.
Cathi, why do people keep their impressions for the patients for years? Like you go in some of the lab rooms and they're like hanging, like
they're
boxes,
piled up, and that is exactly for what Ryan was talking about. It's for the patient ease, and God forbid if something goes wrong and that crown breaks a year down the road, we keep it so that the patient does not have to come back in the office and get another impression. We can just remake it again. So this takes all that storage out of the dental office because I go in and open cabinets and just like you said, all over are leftover impressions for patient convenience. This takes all that patient convenience and puts it one place to where you actually can store little things like, 2x2s, little things that you use every day that you need to get from Zen Supplies. So you have to go through and make sure.
Such a nice plug. Thank you, Cathi.
That's good, right? So hopefully it'll go through and actually free that up because there is one thing in the dental office that we never have, and that's enough space for what we need, whether it's patient referrals or education or typodons or showing them everything that they're going to be doing. This gives them and lets them see the value of what they're doing. They can print this up, print this 3D image up, take it home to their spouse and say, honey, this is why I had to get the work done. Look at what I had. This is what I've done. And this is what the doctor did for me. Definitely space.
I wonder if I would do that. If I go home and tell my wife, look at all my teeth that they scanned today.
Well,
I'm just saying.
There's an order form that pre-populates for our users to do consults, right? A lot of them use them for aligner consults, and it shows all the photos, all the scans there on it. So they do take it home, right? And as their follow-up appointment, they put it on the fridge, they put it on the kitchen table, and people come over and they see it. It's pretty cool.
It is.
Yeah, I think what other part is what I like about it is like it's so easy from the outside when you visit. I don't know. I've been to 300 offices and multiple times in the same offices. It's really easy to see the pattern of offices that are like successful and their offices are a little struggling. And to me, like what I find interesting, the successful offices, they do tours for their patients. And I'm talking about private dentists, right? I'm not talking DSOs.
Yeah.
But like private offices, they'll bring their patient like, hey, let's go. We'll show you around. Like before you have
Yep,
your
I used
appointment, we
to
want to
do
show
that.
you everything we've got, right? And I have a hard time imagining that an office will take a patient into their lab room where they take impressions and all that because it's dirty.
Those are special private places in the dental office.
Yeah, but I see them
But I
taking
will
patients to
show them
like,
a
this is our
scanner.
steric.
Yep.
Right, exactly. Scanning,
I'll
how it
show them
works,
the
this is our
screen.
screen and all that stuff. Yeah,
Definitely. Yeah, we used to do
that's pretty
patient
cool.
tours to let them know what they're getting into and making sure the patient knows that we're educated, we're keeping on top of dentistry, making sure that we are in that above and beyond state to make their stay happier, to get them over the fear of the dentist. You know, of course, nobody likes going to us. You know, we are the most hated profession in the world. But to find all
Most
this
stressful.
great, to have this ability to go through and show the patient what we're doing for them from the office side, something like this gives the value to itself. This is what I've got for you. This is what we use. This is what we're up to date with. So in the office as a tour, this is definitely something I would show them that we could use.
Okay. What is the process? Let's just say doctor goes and finds the product, buys it for 14,000 and comes back and like, what's next? You guys show up with a laptop and a scanner or Cathi or
So the workflow is something similar to this, Tiger. So your customer lets you know, hey, we're interested in this 3D scanner and we'd like to move forward. Well, the first thing we're going to do is myself, one of my representatives from the team will reach out. We'll provide them, if they're local, you know, we'd like to go out and visit them in person. If it's going to be, a tough travel, we just do a virtual demo. We share the screens. We do live scanning on ourselves, on models. We'd say, okay, here's we're going to move
like you did
forward.
at the airport, live scanning.
Exactly.
That was awesome.
Yep. It
I'll
was,
try
right?
to add a video if I can. Yeah. Yeah. People,
So
Ryan
our
sitting with
next
the
step-
scanner at the airport. Yeah. It was fun.
I know. So we come out, we ship out the scanner as soon as the unit's paid for. We overnight it to them. And then myself, Cathi, one of our other trainers, will reach out and set up a date for training. We try to set that up on the initial, when we put the deal together, but sometimes they need to set up the right patients to be scanned. Whatever it is, we try to get it out within the next 2 weeks. They're training. We go out. Cathi will show up. One of the other trainers will show up. I'll show up. We usually do like a 2-hour morning block, between like 9 and 11 or 10 and 12. We'll go through the software. We'll go through sanitation. We'll go through, a basic workflow of a case. And then we will stay that afternoon until close and help coaching over the shoulder with their first 4 or 5 scans. If they don't want to scan patients, we'll scan each other for several hours going through, mock-up cases. And then the next step is cutting them loose, telling them, hey, we want you to scan 1 to 2 patients a day for the next week. A week later, we jump on a virtual call. We'll pull the data and analysis from those scans from the week before, let them know the areas where they struggled, let them know, they let us know where they felt confident, where they felt a little uneasy, and we'll give them tips and tricks to better improve their scanning pathway. The second week of training, we cut them loose to, 2 to 4 patients a day. Again, a follow-up call at the end of that week. And then the third week, we really cut them loose and say, hey, if your comfort level's there, scan everybody that walks in the door, right? Because it helps for future treatment planning.
As soon as they walk in the door.
Yeah. We have receptionists that jump in and scan patients if people are busy. Because truthfully, if you're getting a crown prep, as soon as that patient comes into the chair, they can be scanned completely. Then after the prep, you can go in and delete that tooth and rescan that tooth with the prep. So you can have all but 30 seconds worth of scanning work done and completed. So after the prep, it's just quick scan, send it to the lab, that patient gets his temp and he's ready to go home.
Sorry, it's just my mind went in a different, probably wrong direction. As soon as you said through the door, I imagine as soon as they walk through the door, you scan them. So, sorry.
We just have them set right there, ready to go.
Right, exactly. Scan them. What is how is it connected to like lab form or sprint ray and all that stuff?
That's right.
So the files are exportable. right? So they will have a software that's part of their 3D printer or their mill. So once the case is finalized, they will just export it to their desktop, and then they will pull up that software, export that file from their desktop, do their design work, and then just hit the print, send to print. It's a very easy workflow.
Steric
Much
too?
easier than going another route.
Can you hook it up to Steric?
It's integratable. 3Shape Seric, 30XZ, DWAS, and then the files are also exportable as STL, PLY, OBJ, and also now 3DM. Some insurance companies ask for a 3DM file for ortho cases that are going to be ran through insurance. So we had to make that available as well. So that does separate us. Most of the other scanners in the market are either STL or PLY. They don't have all 5 of them. So our software does. You just choose your option.
And that way the doctor can go with it. Yeah. If he wants to do his own printing in the back,
right,
our software can do it.
What it cannot do.
What it cannot do right now would be the shade matching and cavity detection that we're launching on our next update. That was something that we needed to have. We've been working on that with the R&D and the software team for some months, but it's in its trial phases, its beta testing phases, which means it'll pre-launch to us as a team, and we'll go through it for a couple weeks, and then it'll most likely launch in our March update. So every 90 days, all of our users, free of charge, they'll turn on their software one morning, and it'll say you have a new update. It'll take all of 30 seconds to download, and then we send out a mass email to everybody with all the new features on that update. So faster scanning, slower processing, more integrations, right? We have an integration with AlphaBite, the prefab pedo crown I mentioned. We have integration with Keystone and Nexus implants. We're working on an integration with a couple of aligner companies. So, we're growing, we're integrating, we're doing the back end legwork that the other companies in the industry aren't willing to do. And that's what truly separates us is the fact that you can have your implant software and your scanning software on the same platform.
And this is something too that's I'm down in Florida region, and we do have a lot of patients that are unable to get to us. We have doctors that go above and beyond and actually go to the nursing homes and things like that. The unit is portable enough that he could literally pack this up and take it to a nursing home and scan there if he needed to, or have his assistants do it. So it's something that's very portable in the office. That down here, we definitely need something that can be taken somewhere with you. And that's another feature of this unit too, the portability.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Invisalign?
It's a little bigger
Brian,
than
you mentioned something like what it cannot do.
No. So Invisalign is solely iTero intraoral scanner. So last July they removed 3Shape and Medit, and they stopped accepting scan files from anybody else. I think that was probably part of their, they want to force their users to use their product. Can't knock them for it, right? But what that does is it opens us up to some of these other companies that we're in the process of integrating with. So we look forward to that. It's
compatible with Invisalign.
Is it? No. So Invisalign will not accept a scan file from any scanner.
But like companies similar to Invisalign.
Correct.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. That's cool. That's awesome.
Yes. So now you can use our files today to upload to any portal for aligners except for Invisalign. So Reveal, 3M Clarity, ULab. There's nobody that cannot accept our file. We are a totally open platform. So you can share files with your local lab, with your large labs like NDX and Glidewell, to your implant companies, your companies that do all on 4, all on 6, those very in-depth cases, and then even these small aligner companies. They will all accept our file. Everything's cloud-based, but most of the aligner companies use a web-based portal where you use the drag and drop method. So you'll just export them to your desktop, highlight, and drag and drop them onto your web-based portal.
Yeah. You know what I'm thinking? Cathi, and you can probably help me with this, because Ryan and I are probably like, I don't know, what, 5, 10 years into dentistry?
Yeah.
And Cathi seems like 12 or 13 years into dentistry, like
I
30
I've
years
been
ahead of
doing
us.
it 32 years this year.
Right. So I'm
Yeah.
just sitting and thinking, imagine a dentist in, I don't know, like closer to retirement. And she's like, or he, like, oh my God, what did happen to dentistry, right? So like I used to have just a compressor, the chair, like, like the x-ray mounted on a wall in the room. Maybe I have an x-ray in the wall, but I'm good to go. Now, like Ryan goes through some of these files, like 3D Ms and STIs and all that. It's like, there's just so much going on in the last 7 years of dentistry, and it's just getting started.
It is. It's going to change immensely in the next few years to come, even from where we are now. Back in the day when I started, it was wash your hands, no gloves, no mask, things like that. So coming from somebody
Did we talk about smoking?
oh my God, they smoked in the dental office. They smoked in the dental office.
Crazy.
It was
Yeah.
crazy. The things that we do now that we would never think of doing before. Yes, there was one doctor that comes to my mind that just and he was one of my first that I trained with. So this is where it's come from, and hopefully only getting better as it goes to continue. But even with the ones at the end, guess who they're going to hire? They're going to hire some of the younger dental assistants that are out, their office managers, their hygienists are going to come trained that are coming out of school. So even the hygienists can use this to make bleaching trays, things like that. So it's not just for the doctors in the office. It's for everybody in the office. The dental assistants are usually the ones that do the bleaching trays. So all they need to do is go in, scan, use it. So anybody in the dental office can teach anybody how to use it. Even the ones that are on that verge of retirement can turn around and have somebody in the office be their spot person on this. It's going to go there, and sooner or later, they're going to pass this practice along. And this is definitely something when they go to sell or even consider bringing in a younger partner to take over in the future, that's going to want this tool in their office to continue with.
Well, it's a huge selling point. The office is up and running with digital dentistry, right? They're trained, they're rocking and rolling, connected with their labs. That's huge. That's huge.
Yeah. I feel like that's one, there are a lot of things that I'm trying to discuss within the dental field, but like specifically the dental assistant is where my heart is. I think in our space in dentistry, dental assistants do not have a career path. And it's usually they try to get them in at like $15 an hour. And I think the biggest mistake that dental offices make is not providing a path for dental assistants to grow to $25, $30 an hour dental assistant. And Cathi, you can probably attest to that. Like there is a path
100%.
in the dental practice for a dental assistant to grow and bring so much value back to the office that she can make $40 an hour.
That's
right? So like
one. The assistants are definitely the ones that hold the relationship with the patient the most. They're the ones that will explain treatment, explain prices, explain what's going to happen. And that relationship that's formed between the dental assistant and the patient themselves is sometimes stronger than the doctors. They see the doctor when bad things happen. They see the hygienist when they need their teeth cleaned. But the dental assistant's main job in the dental office is to make the patient comfortable, to make the patient aware and feel safe.
Yeah. I feel
And
like
that,
from what I've seen is the dental assistant's job is what you said, then make sure the back is running on time. You don't run out of supplies. The lab cases came in on time. There's so many
They're
things that
in
the dental
charge.
assistant is responsible.
They're
Yeah,
in
exactly.
charge of
And
the
they're
work.
getting paid $15 an hour. That's my problem.
I like the fact that the dental assistants that I've worked with in, I'd say, the last 5 years, the salary is finally coming there. They are understanding their worth in the dental office. So it's definitely getting better as it comes up. Some really good ones I've seen go as high as 30 an hour now. So down here, we are definitely realizing the appreciation to the dental assistants and how they do. And it has come to light that they are one of the most intricate pieces of a dental office, definitely.
Yeah. Yeah. I think my last point that I wanted to make and see what you guys think is this right before retirement segment of, like, let's just say industry professionals are about to leave. I think it's the most fascinating, in my opinion, because most, for some reason, have this weird feeling of like, I'm almost done. Why do I care? But they're the ones who can push the dentistry forward because they have so much experience, and you can never replace experience. Like,
Nope.
you pulled, I don't know, 3,000 teeth in your entire life, like you did like 5,000 extractions. You cannot replace that, right? And so just as you retire, you're going to have time, and it's all across the board from dental assistant to doctor, office manager, hygienist. You're going to have an extra time. Use that extra time to learn things. In this whole thing of like, well, it's technology, I don't know how to use it. I don't buy that. That's BS to me. Like, I've seen people, especially dental assistants in the 60s, use Zen supplies better than some of the 20-year-olds. So I don't buy this whole thing like you're not there, right, to learn
I'm in
it.
the 50s. I totally understand
Right.
that generation gap as it goes through. So yes, if I can learn it, anybody can learn it.
Right. And I give you a ton of credit for not being that kind of person of like,
Yeah.
what am I doing? Like I got 10 years left, right? So like, no, you can give back so much.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's my wrapping point, if you guys don't mind.
Not at all. That was a great way to end it, is making sure we're moving forward, taking that beat, and making sure we keep the next generation on their toes.
Exactly. My whole thing is, let's keep the private offices private offices.
Oh, I
I'll tell you, all the offices I've trained and the doctors I've dealt with the last, few years, right? There's a difference, right? There's some doctors that they're okay with where they're at, and there's some doctors that are just thirsty for knowledge, right? And they want to continue to better themselves. And those are the ones that's our niche, right? It's like, look at this new software. It's going to help you with, A to Z, and they will see the benefit instantly, right? The ones that are going to have that severe pushback and they're going to, want to argue every single thing. That's not really our niche. We're not going to take the time. We will take the time to try to handhold them, but it's difficult, right? And there's so many doctors that are hungry for and thirsty for knowledge. We just go and attack them and we find them, right? Because it's more of a partnership and a relationship instead of a buyer and a seller. And those are the doctors that are going to be willing to dedicate the time to train, that are going to be willing to take 2 hours a week for the first 2 to 3 weeks for their staff to focus on training on this, right? You're spending, $15,000, $20,000 on a piece of equipment. The doctors that are not hungry for knowledge, they think it's just supposed to work because they spent the money on it. They don't understand sometimes that there's a path and a technique that these doctors that understand it and have done their research and their due diligence, they're like, yeah, we're going to have to definitely dedicate time if I spent this amount of money for this product, right? So that's our niche, and I'm sure the majority of your customers will see the benefit instantly.
Yeah, of course. Just general in dentistry, people will see the benefit.
Yeah.
Well, guys, thank you so much. I don't want to hold you more. I really appreciate the feedback and the candid conversation. We went in some very different tangents.
I had a great time.
Yeah, and we brought it back, so really appreciate it.
I love it, Tiger. Thank you.
I think next week.
Keep me posted because I think I'm out of town all week this week, but I'll be back. I'll be home all next week. So if you're in town one night, we'll grab dinner or something.
Yeah, sounds good. Yeah. All right. Thank you.
All right, love. Thank
Cathi,
you.
Ryan, you guys are awesome. Thank you.
See you later.
Take care, Ed.